Chapter 1: The Foundations of Magizoology. For centuries, the relationship between the wizarding world and the magical creatures sharing our planet was defined by confusion, fear, and a total lack of organization. Early witches and wizards lived in close proximity to beasts they did not understand, often reacting with violence or running away in terror. There was no science of magizoology, no textbook to guide travelers, and certainly no official laws to protect either humans or beasts. It was a chaotic era where a harmless creature might be hunted to near extinction, while a truly deadly monster was left to wander near human settlements. The journey toward understanding began with a simple but incredibly difficult question. How do we define the difference between a beast and a person? This question sparked a debate that lasted for hundreds of years, causing immense political trouble within the wizarding community. In the 14th century, Burdock Muldoon, the chief of the Wizards' Council, decided it was time to create a clear division. He declared that any creature that walked on two legs would be classified as a being, and therefore invited to help govern the magical world. Any creature with more or fewer legs was officially a beast. This simple rule led to immediate disaster. When Muldoon held the first Summit of Beings, the council chambers were overwhelmed. Goblins who wanted to mock the system brought every two-legged creature they could find. The hall was filled with screeching pixies flying through the air and biting people on the ears, wild foopers singing their mind-shattering songs, and angry trolls who could not understand a word of the proceedings and began swinging their clubs at the walls. The meeting ended in complete chaos, and Muldoon gave up on his attempt to categorize the magical world. A few years later, Muldoon's successor, Elfrida Clagg, tried a different approach. She realized that walking on two legs was a poor measure of intelligence. Instead, she declared that beings were any magical creatures that could speak the human tongue. She called for a new assembly, hoping for a more civilized meeting. Unfortunately, this attempt failed just as spectacularly. The goblins once again caused trouble by teaching trolls a few basic words, which the trolls used right before they began smashing the furniture. Small, ferret-like Jarvies ran under the chairs, shouting rude insults at the high-ranking officials. Furthermore, the centaurs boycotted the meeting in protest. They were angry because the merpeople, who had their own highly developed language, could not speak human words above the water, and were therefore excluded. To make matters worse, ghosts attended the meeting but left in a huff, complaining that the council was far too focused on the living rather than the dead. It took nearly 4 centuries to resolve this great debate. In 1811, a newly appointed minister for magic named Grogan Stump established the definitions we still use today. Stump declared that a being is any creature that has sufficient intelligence to understand the laws of the magical community, and to bear part of the responsibility in shaping those laws. Under this new definition, the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures was split into 3 distinct divisions: the Beast Division, the Being Division, and the Spirit Division, which was created specifically to give ghosts their own respectful category, without insulting them by calling them beings. Even with this brilliant definition, the system required some flexibility. Several highly intelligent species chose to reject their status as beings. Centaurs and merpeople, despite possessing human-level intelligence and complex societies, officially requested to be classified as beasts. They did not want to be grouped in the same legal category as hags and vampires, and they preferred to manage their own territories without ministry interference. On the other hand, creatures like the Acromantula and the Sphinx possess the ability to speak human language, but because of their incredibly violent natures and tendency to eat anyone who approaches them, they are strictly classified as beasts. Once the boundary between beast and being was established, the Ministry of Magic needed a way to guide the public on how to handle the millions of creatures living in the wild. The result was the famous 5-tier danger rating system. This system acts as an at-a-glance guide, helping wizards understand the level of danger a creature presents and what level of magical skill is required to deal with it. The very first tier of this system is represented by a single X, which the Ministry officially labels as boring. These are creatures that pose absolutely no threat to anyone and are of very little interest to the average wizard. The most famous example of a Category 1 beast is the flobberworm. These slow-moving, thick brown worms spend their lives in damp ditches, doing little more than eating lettuce and producing mucus. While they are completely harmless and require no skill to keep, they are highly valued by potion makers who use their mucus to thicken various mixtures. Another example is the horklump, a fleshy, pinkish, mushroom-like creature covered in sparse, wiry black bristles. They spread rapidly through gardens but do nothing more than dig their tentacles into the soil to hunt for earthworms. To a magizoologist, even these simple beasts have their place in the grand design of nature. Moving up the scale, we find the double X classification, reserved for creatures that are harmless or easily domesticated. These animals make wonderful pets or garden helpers, and even young witches and wizards can learn to care for them safely. In this category, we find the loyal bowtruckle, a tiny tree-dwelling creature made of bark and twigs that guards its home tree with great dedication. We also find the common garden gnome, which is more of a pest than a danger, and the fluffy puffskin, a spherical, custard-coloured creature that loves to be cuddled and has a long pink tongue to search for food. Many families also enjoy keeping the augury, a mournful-looking bird whose greenish-black feathers repel ink and whose low, throbbing cry was once feared as a death omen, though we now know it simply predicts the arrival of rain. These beasts bring joy and utility to wizarding households and require minimal magical knowledge to manage. The middle of the scale is marked by 3 X's, denoting creatures that a competent wizard should be able to cope with. This is a very broad category, filled with animals that possess unique magical abilities or mischievous temperaments. They are not highly dangerous, but they certainly require respect and a firm hand. The Niffler, a long-snouted, black-furred creature with an obsession for anything shiny, is a classic example. While friendly, a loose Niffler can easily destroy a house in its search for gold and jewels. This category also includes the Hippogriff, a magnificent beast with the front of an eagle and the body of a horse. A hippogriff is intensely proud. A wizard must look them in the eye and bow to show respect before attempting to touch them. Failing to do so can result in a painful injury, showing exactly why a competent level of magical understanding is necessary. We also find Cornish pixies in this group, electric blue troublemakers that love to lift people up by their ears and deposit them on top of high furniture or trees. The 4th tier, represented by 4 X's, is where we begin to encounter serious danger. The Ministry classifies these creatures as dangerous, requiring specialist knowledge, though a highly skilled wizard may handle them. This category includes some of the most beautiful and legendary beasts in our world, such as the unicorn. While the unicorn is gentle and prefers the touch of a gentle hand, it is incredibly powerful and must be treated with the utmost reverence. This tier also includes the Kelpie, a malevolent water demon that often takes the shape of a horse to lure unsuspecting travelers onto its back before dragging them to the bottom of a lake to drown them. To handle a Kelpie, a wizard must know how to place a placement charm over its head to make it completely docile. The Sphinx, with her human head and lion body, also sits in this category, famous for her love of complex riddles and her violent reaction to anyone who gets the answer wrong. We also find the Erumpent here, a massive African beast whose horn is filled with an explosive fluid that can blow up anything it punctures, requiring caretakers to treat them with extreme caution. At the very top of the system lies the feared 5X classification. These are known wizard killers, creatures that are impossible to train or domesticate. Any encounter with a Category 5 beast is a matter of life and death, and only the most experienced magizoologists should ever attempt to approach them. The dragon, in all its various breeds, is perhaps the most famous member of this group, with their massive size, thick hide that repels most spells, and ability to breathe devastating fire. Dragons are a constant challenge for the Ministry to hide and control. This tier also includes the Basilisk, a giant serpent born from a chicken egg hatched under a toad, whose gaze can kill instantly and whose venom is incredibly destructive. We must also speak of the Letherfold, a terrifying, shadow-like creature that glides along the ground at night, suffocating its sleeping victims and leaving no trace behind. There is also the Noondu, a gigantic leopard from East Africa whose breath is so toxic and filled with disease that it can wipe out entire villages. Understanding these classifications is the very foundation of Magizoology. It is not merely about labeling creatures as good or bad, or safe or dangerous. Instead, this system allows us to appreciate the incredible diversity of the magical world while keeping our community safe. By studying the history of how we defined these beasts, and by respecting the boundaries established by the Ministry, we can continue to coexist with the wondrous, terrifying and beautiful creatures that make our world so magical. Chapter 2. Apex Predators of the Sky. Dragons. The Ministry of Magic classifies dragons as XXXXXX. This is the highest danger rating given to any magical creature. It means they are known wizard killers and are impossible to train or domesticate. Despite this extreme danger, dragons are among the most magnificent creatures in our world. Their anatomy is a wonder of natural magic. A dragon's skin is thick and deeply infused with ancient magic, making it highly resistant to spells. It takes several powerful wizards casting stunning spells in perfect unison just to subdue a single adult dragon. Underneath this protective armor lies a complex respiratory system capable of generating intense heat. Deep within their chests, dragons possess organs that mix gases to create flames of incredible temperatures. Their blood, hide, and horns also contain unique magical properties, which is why the study of dragons, known as dragonology, remains one of the most respected fields in Magizoology. Among the 10 recognized purebred species, none commands more fear and respect than the Hungarian horntail. This beast is widely considered to be the most dangerous of all dragon breeds. Visually, the horntail is terrifying. It has black scales and a lizard-like appearance. Its yellow eyes have vertical slits like a cat, and its head is crowned with bronze horns. What makes the horntail uniquely lethal is its tail. Unlike other dragons, the horntail has sharp bronze spikes protruding along the entire length of its tail. It uses this tail as a devastating club, swinging it with enough force to shatter stone. In terms of behavior, the Hungarian horntail is extremely aggressive. It is highly territorial and will attack anything that comes near its nesting grounds. Its fire-breathing capabilities are also unmatched. A horntail can shoot flames up to 50 feet, which is much farther than most other breeds. This combination of aerial speed, physical weapons, and long-range fire makes it a true apex predator of the sky. By contrast, the common Welsh Green is one of the least troublesome dragon breeds. Native to the high mountains of Wales, this dragon blends beautifully with its environment. Its scales are a lovely grassy green which helps it hide in the lush hillsides. The Welsh Green is relatively small compared to some of its massive cousins, and it has a much gentler temperament. It actively avoids humans and prefers to live in secluded valleys where it can hunt its favourite prey, which is sheep. Unless it is directly provoked, the Welsh Green will rarely attack people. Its roar is also quite distinctive. Instead of a terrifying, earth-shaking rumble, the Welsh Green produces a surprisingly melodious musical sound that can echo across the valleys. Its fire is bright green and is expelled in thin, controlled jets. Because of its peaceful nature, the International Statute of Wizarding Secrecy has an easier time protecting this breed, though reserves are still strictly monitored to prevent Muggle encounters. Another remarkably beautiful and subdued breed is the Antipodean opali. This dragon is native to New Zealand, though it sometimes migrates to Australia when territory becomes scarce. Magizoologists generally agree that the opali is the most beautiful of all dragons. Its scales are pearly and iridescent, reflecting a rainbow of colors when the sunlight hits them. Its eyes are multicolored and pearlescent, lacking visible pupils, which gives them a glassy, mystical appearance. The opali is a valley dweller rather than a mountain dweller. It is generally non-aggressive, choosing to hunt only when it is hungry. Its preferred diet consists of sheep, though it has been known to hunt larger prey if necessary. When it does breathe fire, the flames are a vivid, bright scarlet. Its eggs are pale grey and are sometimes mistaken for ancient fossils by unsuspecting muggles. Moving to Asia, we find the Chinese fireball, also known as the lion dragon. This striking breed gets its name from its physical appearance and the unique shape of its flames. The fireball has smooth, brilliant scarlet scales and a fringe of golden spikes around its face. Its eyes are large and protuberant, giving it an intense, focused stare. When the Chinese fireball breathes fire, it expels a mushroom-shaped cloud of flame from its nostrils. This flame is extremely hot and can incinerate targets instantly. Behaviorally, the fireball is interesting because it is more social than most other dragons. While most breeds are strictly solitary and will fight to the death over territory, the Chinese fireball has been known to share its living area with up to 2 other dragons of its own kind. It feeds primarily on pigs and sheep, though it also has a strong preference for larger mammals. The Norwegian Ridgeback is another formidable breed, sharing many physical similarities with the Hungarian horntail. However, instead of tail spikes, the Ridgeback has prominent jet-black ridges running all along its back. It is highly aggressive and starts showing its fierce nature from a very young age. In fact, Ridgeback hatchlings develop the ability to breathe fire much earlier than other breeds, usually within just a few weeks of hatching. This breed is also unique in its hunting habits. While most dragons hunt land mammals, the Norwegian Ridgeback has been observed hunting large water mammals, such as whales, straight out of the cold northern seas. It also possesses venomous fangs, making its bite particularly dangerous. Because of their aggressive nature, keeping a Ridgeback is incredibly difficult and highly illegal without proper ministerial permits. The Swedish short snout is a sleek and physically beautiful dragon that inhabits the wild, mountainous regions of northern Sweden. Its scales are a striking silvery blue color. This hide is highly sought after by wizards because it is incredibly tough and resistant to both physical damage and magical spells. Consequently, short snout skin is often used to manufacture protective wizarding gloves and shields. The short snout is a relatively quiet dragon that prefers to live in uninhabited, icy regions. It rarely comes into contact with humans, which is fortunate because its fire is exceptionally dangerous. The flame of a Swedish short snout is a brilliant, hot blue. This blue fire can reduce timber and bone to ash in a matter of seconds. Despite its destructive power, the short snout is less aggressive than the horntail or the Ridgeback. Preferring to keep to its cold, isolated home, for sheer size and power, no breed can match the Ukrainian Ironbelly. This is the largest dragon breed in the world, with some specimens weighing up to 6 tons. Because of this immense weight, the Ironbelly is slower in flight than other, sleeker dragons. However, what it lacks in speed, it more than makes up for in pure crushing force. The Ironbelly has metallic silver scales that are as hard as steel, and its eyes are a deep, menacing red. Its claws are exceptionally large and sharp. When an Ironbelly lands, the impact can crush buildings to rubble. In the past, one of these massive beasts was even recorded lifting an empty sailing ship from the water. The Gringotts Wizarding Bank notoriously used a partially blinded Ukrainian Ironbelly to guard its deepest and most secure vaults, relying on the beast's massive size and fierce nature to deter thieves. At the opposite end of the size spectrum is the Peruvian Vipertooth. This is the smallest of all known dragon breeds, reaching a length of only about 15 feet. However, its small size does not make it any less dangerous. In fact, the Vipertooth is incredibly fast and agile in the air. Its scales are smooth and copper-colored, with black markings along its spine, It has short horns on its head and very sharp, venomous fangs. The Vipertooth is particularly feared because it has developed a specific taste for humans. During the late 19th century, the population of Vipertooths grew so rapidly, and their attacks on humans became so frequent that the International Confederation of Wizards had to send in specialized teams of exterminators to reduce their numbers. Today, their population is carefully managed to prevent further tragedy. The Hebridean Black is Great Britain's other native dragon breed. Living in the Outer Hebrides of Scotland, this dragon has dark, rough scales and a row of razor-sharp ridges along its back. Its eyes are a brilliant, glowing purple, and its tail ends in an arrow-shaped spike. The Hebridean Black requires a vast territory to hunt, often up to 100 square miles per dragon. The McFusty clan, a family of wizards who have lived in the Hebrides for centuries, has traditionally taken on the responsibility of managing and protecting these magnificent beasts. Another fascinating European breed is the Romanian Longhorn. This dragon has dark green scales and two long, glittering golden horns. It uses these horns to gore and stab its prey before eating. Because these golden horns are highly valuable as potion ingredients, the Romanian Longhorn was hunted ruthlessly for decades. This illegal poaching brought the species to the brink of extinction. Fortunately, a massive breeding program was established in Romania. Today, the Carpathian Mountains house the largest dragon reservation in the world, where wizards from all over the globe come to study and protect these legendary creatures. Studying these apex predators reminds us of the incredible diversity and power of the natural magical world, from the gentle beauty of the Antipodean opali to the terrifying physical power of the Hungarian horntail. Each dragon breed plays a vital role in our ecosystem. Managing these creatures requires a delicate balance of magical strength, scientific understanding, and profound respect. As magizoologists, our goal is not to conquer or tame these beasts, but to ensure they have the space and protection they need to thrive. By understanding their unique anatomy and behaviors, we can continue to coexist with the most formidable rulers of the sky. Chapter 3: Noble Steeds of the Air. The human desire to fly is as old as magic itself. While broomsticks and enchanted carpets have served wizards for centuries, there is a far older, much more profound way to travel through the heavens. To share the sky with a living, breathing creature is an experience that no piece of enchanted wood can ever match. Among all the beasts that fly, none capture the imagination quite like the majestic winged equines and their avian relatives. These are the noble steeds of the air. They represent a perfect union of strength, speed, and magical grace. For the wizarding naturalist, studying these creatures is a journey into the very heart of animal intelligence and high-altitude biology. To understand these magnificent beasts, we must first look at the strict laws that govern them. Under the International Statute of Wizarding Secrecy, keeping any winged creature of this size is a massive responsibility. Muggle eyes are constantly searching the skies, and a giant flying horse or a half-eagle beast would cause immediate panic. Therefore, the Ministry of Magic requires all owners of winged horses and similar creatures to regularly cast disillusionment charms on them. This clever magic makes the beasts blend into the clouds and sky, ensuring they remain invisible to the non-magical public. It is a necessary precaution to protect both our world and the creatures themselves from unwanted attention. Perhaps the most famous of these aerial guardians is the Hippogriff. A striking creature, the Hippogriff is a hybrid that brings together the front half of a giant eagle and the hindquarters of a horse. It possesses a powerful razor-sharp beak, massive talons on its front legs, and large feathered wings that can span several yards. The back half is sleek and muscular, ending in a horse's tail and hooves. Native to Europe, though now found worldwide, the Hippogriff is classified by the Ministry of Magic as a beast of XXX rating. This means a competent wizard can handle them, but they demand a high level of expertise and, above all, absolute respect. The defining trait of the Hippogriff is its intense, unwavering pride. These are not passive beasts that can be easily tamed or ordered around. Indeed, approaching a hippogriff incorrectly can lead to severe injury, as their sharp talons can tear through flesh in an instant. There is a precise, ancient etiquette that must be followed when interacting with them. One must never approach a hippogriff quickly, nor should one blink too often, as they find constant blinking suspicious. A wizard must stand at a safe distance, look the creature directly in the eyes, and bow deeply. Once you have bowed, you must wait. The hippogriff will evaluate your intentions. If it senses that you are respectful and calm, it will slowly bend its front knees and return the bow. This is the signal that you have been accepted. Only then is it safe to approach, stroke its feathers, or attempt to mount its back for flight. If the hippogriff does not bow, you must retreat immediately, keeping your eyes on it as you back away. This strict social code shows a level of intelligence and self-awareness that few other magical beasts possess. They are creatures of honor, and they expect nothing less from the humans who wish to fly with them. The experience of riding a hippogriff is said to be completely different from flying a broomstick. It is a wild, physical experience. As the beast takes off, its powerful wings beat the air with a sound like thunder. You must grip its neck tightly, feeling the rise and fall of its muscular shoulders with every flap of its wings. The flight is fast and heavy, filled with the rush of wind and the warmth of the animal beneath you. For many Hogwarts students, their first encounter with these beasts, particularly a proud grey hippogriff named Buckbeak, remains one of the most memorable lessons of their lives. Buckbeak proved that when treated with love and respect, a hippogriff can become a fiercely loyal ally, willing to defend its human friends against great dangers. While the hippogriff is a spectacular sight, the wizarding world is also home to a diverse group of true winged horses. These are not hybrids, but a distinct magical species of equine. Found across the globe, winged horses come in several distinct breeds, each adapted to different climates, roles, and cultural preferences. From the immense and powerful to the swift and sleek. These breeds represent some of the finest examples of magical animal husbandry. Among the largest and most physically impressive of these breeds is the Abraxan. These are truly colossal animals, often described as giant palominos. They possess beautiful golden white coats and wings that look like those of a massive divine swan. An Abraxan is so large that its hooves are said to be larger than dinner plates, and a herd of them coming into land can make the ground shake. Because of their immense size and power, handling them requires extraordinary strength and magical skill. They are classified as highly dangerous, not because they are naturally aggressive, but because their sheer physical scale makes any accident potentially catastrophic. The most famous herd of Abraxans in modern history belongs to Madame Olympe Maxime, the headmistress of the Beauxbatons Academy of Magic. These magnificent beasts are used to pull the school's enormous powder-blue carriage across continents. To maintain their incredible strength and keep them warm during high-altitude travel, Abraxans require a highly unusual diet. They do not feed on standard horse feed alone. Indeed, they drink only single malt whiskey. This potent drink gives them the necessary energy to pull heavy loads across the sky for days at a time. Seeing a dozen of these golden giants soaring through the clouds, pulling a carriage of French young witches and wizards, is a sight of pure, breathtaking magic. In contrast to the heavy-duty Abraxan, other breeds of winged horses are built for speed and agility. Take, for instance, the Granian. This breed is sleek, grey, and particularly fast. Granians are highly prized by wizards who enjoy the sport of winged horse racing. Their lightweight bodies and aerodynamically perfect wings allow them to perform tight turns and reach incredible speeds in the upper atmosphere. Another popular breed is the Athenan, a beautiful chestnut horse. The Athenan is particularly popular in Britain and Ireland. It is a dependable, medium-sized breed that is often favoured for personal transport and short-distance travel due to its steady temperament and gentle nature. Yet, of all the winged horses in existence, None are as fascinating or as deeply misunderstood as the Thestral. Thestrals are rare, native to the British Isles and Ireland, though occasionally spotted in parts of Western Europe. They look entirely different from their golden and chestnut cousins. A Thestral is a skeletal beast, with a jet-black body that seems to be nothing but skin stretched tightly over bone. They have reptilian faces, sharp fangs, and wide leathery wings that resemble those of a giant bat rather than a bird. Their eyes are a pale, glowing white, lacking pupils, giving them a haunting, ghostly appearance. For centuries, the Thestral has been burdened with a dark and tragic reputation. They are widely regarded as omens of misfortune, death, and disaster. Many wizards believe that seeing a Thestral is a sign that tragedy is about to strike. This superstition is so deeply rooted that the British Ministry of Magic once classified them as highly dangerous beasts, discouraging wizards from breeding or keeping them. However, this fear is based entirely on a misunderstanding of the unique magic that governs these animals. The truth is that Thestrals are completely invisible to the vast majority of the wizarding population. They can only be seen by individuals who have witnessed death firsthand and, crucial to the magic, have fully processed and accepted the reality of that death. For a young child or a wizard who has lived a peaceful life, a Thestral is nothing but empty air. But for those who have known grief, the black skeletal horse suddenly becomes visible. Because of this, people historically associated the appearance of the beasts with the tragedy of death itself, confusing the creature that witnesses grief with the cause of it. In reality, Thestrals are gentle, highly intelligent, and remarkably useful creatures. They are carnivores, attracted to the scent of blood and raw meat, which they hunt in dark, dense forests. The Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry is home to the only trained herd of Thestrals in Britain. This herd, managed for decades by the school's gamekeeper, lives in the Forbidden Forest. Despite their carnivorous diet, the Hogwarts Thestrals are incredibly well behaved. They have been trained not to harm the school's mail-carrying owls or other local wildlife, showing a capacity for discipline and learning that rivals any domestic beast. One of the most extraordinary abilities of the Thestral is its unparalleled sense of direction. If you mount a Thestral and simply tell it where you wish to go, it will fly you there with perfect accuracy, navigating through storms, darkness, and unfamiliar territories without ever losing its way. They are incredibly fast flyers, easily keeping pace with the fastest broomsticks. During the Second Wizarding War, Thestrals played a vital role, carrying young wizards to the Ministry of Magic during a daring rescue mission, and later helping to transport Harry Potter during his dangerous escape from Privet Drive. When we look past the superstitions and the fears, we find that the winged horses and hippogriffs of our world are among the most magnificent creations of nature. They demand our respect, not just because of their sharp talons or their massive hooves, but because of their deep emotional intelligence. Whether it is the proud hippogriff waiting for a respectful bow, the golden abraxon soaring through the clouds, or the silent, invisible Thestral guiding a grieving wizard through the dark, these noble steeds of the air remind us of the beauty that exists when we take the time to truly understand the magical beasts around us. Chapter 4. The Secrets of the Forbidden Forest. Bordering the manicured lawns of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry lies a vast, ancient wilderness, known to generations of witches and wizards simply as the Forbidden Forest. This sprawling woodland is a place of deep shadows, winding paths, and towering trees like ancient oaks and yews that block out the sun. For centuries, the forest has served as a sanctuary for some of the world's most remarkable magical creatures. It is not merely a collection of trees, but a complex, self-sustaining ecosystem where different magical societies and species coexist in a delicate and often dangerous balance. To understand the true nature of this woodland, we must venture past its dark borders and explore the unique biomes and cultures that thrive deep within its heart. Among the most intelligent and ancient inhabitants of the Forbidden Forest are the Serpents, These magnificent beings possess the body of a horse and the torso, arms, and head of a human. Despite their high intelligence and ability to speak, Centaurs have long rejected the Ministry of Magic's classification system. When the Ministry attempted to classify them as beings, alongside humans and elves, the Centaurs refused. They chose instead to remain classified as beasts, unwilling to share their social status with vampires and hags. This pride and fierce independence define every aspect of their society. The Forbidden Forest herd is led by elders and warriors, including prominent figures like Magorian, Bane, and Ronan. They live in highly secluded clearings, marked by standing stones and natural barriers that keep intruders at bay. Centaur culture is deeply rooted in the study of the skies. They spend their nights observing the movements of the planets and stars, practicing a highly advanced form of divination. Unlike human astronomers, who seek to predict specific everyday events, Centaurs view the universe on a grand scale. They read the trends of history and the destinies of entire nations in the glittering patterns above. To a Centaur, the stars reveal what must happen, and attempting to alter these celestial plans is seen as a foolish and arrogant human mistake. This philosophical outlook makes them deeply distrustful of wizard kind. They view wizards as small-minded and invasive, constantly interfering with the natural order. This tension is best illustrated by the story of Firenze, a centaur who agreed to teach divination at Hogwarts. For the crime of sharing their sacred knowledge with humans, the herd viewed Firenze as a traitor and banished him, proving just how strictly they guard their secrets and their borders. To wander into centaur territory without permission is to invite swift and violent retribution, as they are deadly archers and fierce protectors of their young. In stark contrast to the proud and protective centaurs, the forest is also home to one of the purest and most graceful creatures in existence, the unicorn. These beautiful beasts prefer the quietest, most peaceful parts of the forest, far from the territories of predators and humans. The life cycle of a unicorn is a fascinating study in magical biology. When they are born, unicorn foals are not the brilliant white we expect. Instead, they are born with coats of pure, shimmering gold. At this young age, they do not yet possess horns, and they are surprisingly trusting. As they grow older, around the age of 2, their coats turn to a bright, reflective silver. It is only when they reach full maturity, at about 7 years of age, that they grow their singular, elegant horn, and their fur becomes a dazzling, pure white so bright that it seems to glow in the dark. Unicorns possess a highly sensitive nature and are notoriously difficult to approach. Historically, they prefer the gentle touch of women and girls, though young foals are sometimes more willing to tolerate the presence of boys. Their magic is woven into every part of their physical form. Their hair is highly sought after by wand makers, as it produces consistent, loyal magic that is difficult to turn to the dark arts. Their horns are used in many powerful potions, valued for their purifying properties. However, the most potent and tragic aspect of unicorn biology is their blood, shimmering and silver. Unicorn blood has the power to keep a person alive, even if they are on the very brink of death. But this salvation comes at a terrible, unthinkable cost. Because the unicorn is an innocent and highly sacred creature, slaying one is considered a monstrous act. To drink its blood is to curse oneself to a half-life, a shadow of existence, because one has destroyed something so pure to save their own selfish life. Under normal circumstances, no creature in the Forbidden Forest would ever dream of harming a unicorn. Even the predatory beasts of the woods respect their purity. Yet the natural order of the forest was permanently disrupted in the mid-20th century by the introduction of an invasive and terrifying predator, the acromantula. Native to the dense rainforests of Southeast Asia, the acromantula is a giant, 8-eyed spider capable of human speech. They are believed to have been bred by wizards originally, designed to guard treasure hoards and hidden dwellings. Because of their extreme danger to humans and their highly aggressive nature, the Ministry of Magic has classified them as Class A non-tradable goods and their eggs are strictly banned from import. The presence of these giant arachnids in the Forbidden Forest can be traced back to 1943, when a young student named Rubeus Hagrid raised a baby acromantula named Aragog in a cupboard at Hogwarts. When the spider was discovered, Hagrid helped him escape into the nearby woods. Deep in the forest, Arago established a home. Years later, Hagrid found Arago a mate named Mosag, and the two began to breed. What started as a single isolated creature quickly grew into a massive, terrifying colony numbering in the thousands. The acromantula colony resides in a deep, misty hollow in the darkest part of the forest. This biome is a claustrophobic nightmare, completely choked by thick, dome-shaped webs that stretch from the forest floor to the highest branches of the canopy. The air here is filled with the constant, unsettling sound of clicking pincers, a noise the spiders make when they are excited or angry. Acromantulas are strictly carnivorous and prefer large prey. They hunt the deer, badgers, and other wild animals of the forest, and they have an insatiable appetite for human flesh. For decades, a fragile peace existed between the acromantula colony and the other inhabitants of the forest. This peace was maintained solely by the authority of Aragog. Out of respect and love for the man who raised him, Aragog forbade his children from attacking Rubeus Hagrid, and by extension he kept the colony from actively hunting the students and staff of Hogwarts. However, this restraint did not extend to anyone else who stumbled into their territory, and the spiders remained a constant, looming threat to the centaurs and other intelligent species. When Aragog passed away, this fragile truce shattered. Without their patriarch's commanding voice to hold them back, the thousands of giant spiders gave in to their predatory instincts. They became bolder, expanding their hunting grounds and threatening to overrun the entire forest ecosystem. The rise of the acromantula colony is a stark reminder of how a single, well-meaning action by a wizard can introduce an invasive force that permanently alters a natural magical habitat. The Forbidden Forest is far more than a dark backdrop for school adventures. It is a living, breathing world, defined by the ancient wisdom of the centaurs, the pristine grace of the unicorns, and the dark, clicking shadows of the acromantula hollows. Each of these groups represents a different facet of the magical world: the spiritual and philosophical, the pure and untamed, and the dangerous and artificial. It is this complex web of life that makes the Forbidden Forest one of the most fascinating, mysterious, and deeply respected biomes in the entire wizarding world. Chapter 5: The Deep Ecology of the Black Lake. The Great Lake of Hogwarts, often called the Black Lake, is one of the most mysterious and complex aquatic biospheres in the magical world. To the casual observer standing on the grassy banks, the lake appears to be a calm, dark sheet of water reflecting the stone towers of the castle. But beneath this cold, glassy surface lies a deep, dark world teeming with life. It is an ancient ecosystem where wild beasts, dark water demons, and a highly organized civilization live in a delicate, silent balance. To understand the deep ecology of these waters, a magizoologist must look past the shadows and plunge into the cold currents, where light quickly fades into a deep, watery green. Near the shoreline, the lake bed drops off sharply into deep trenches. Here, the water is thick with tall, swaying lakeweeds and cold mud. This shallow, murky zone is the primary hunting ground of the Grindylow, classified by the Ministry of Magic as a dark creature of moderate danger. The Grindylow is a small, horned water demon native to the lakes and bogs of Great Britain and Ireland. In appearance, they are quite striking and rather unsettling. Their skin is a sickly pale green colour, which allows them to blend perfectly with the underwater plants. They possess small, sharp horns on their heads, green teeth, and highly expressive, malicious faces. The most defining physical feature of the Grindylow is its hands. They have incredibly long, spindly fingers. While these fingers can exert a remarkably tight, vice-like grip when they wrap around a victim, they are actually quite brittle. This physical detail is the key to surviving an encounter with them. If you are grabbed by a Grindylow, The most effective defense is to target these long fingers and break their grip. Under the water, a well-placed revulsion jinx is highly effective. The spell shoots a jet of boiling hot water at the creature, forcing it to release its prey and retreat into the shadows. Grindylows are highly aggressive by nature, attacking witches, wizards, and muggles alike. However, their diet in the Black Lake consists mostly of small fish, algae, and frogs. They are opportunistic hunters, waiting in the thickest weed beds to ambush anything that swims too close. Interestingly, despite their wild and hostile temperament, they are not entirely untamable. The local merpeople have successfully domesticated them. Visitors to the deeper parts of the lake will often see grindylows tied to stakes outside merperson homes, serving as fierce, snapping guard dogs. Moving past the weed beds and descending further into the cold depths, the landscape of the lake changes. The mud gives way to smooth stones, and the water becomes much clearer. Approximately a quarter of a mile from the castle shores, in the very heart of the lake, sits the settlement of the merpeople. The merpeople of the Black Lake are not the beautiful golden-skinned sirens of the warm Mediterranean waters. They are selkies, a hardy breed native to the cold, rough waters of Scotland. The selkies are tall, imposing creatures, often reaching a height of 7 feet. They have greyish skin, bright yellow eyes, and long, wild hair of a deep, dark green colour. Their teeth are sharp and yellowed, and they wear thick, heavy necklaces made of pebbles and shells found on the lake floor. From the waist down, they possess powerful silver fishtails that allow them to navigate the freezing dark currents with incredible speed and grace. They are an ancient, proud, and highly intelligent people. The merpeople village is a marvel of underwater architecture and social organization. It consists of clusters of stone dwellings built from the natural rock of the lake bed, many of them covered in a fine layer of green algae. The merpeople take great pride in their homes, often cultivating beautiful gardens of glowing water plants around their doorways. In the centre of the village is a large, open square. In this square stands a massive, crude statue of a merperson hewn from a single, large rock. This serves as a gathering place for the community, where they hold meetings, festivals, and musical performances. Music is a central part of merpeople culture. All breeds of merfolk, including the cold water selkies, share a deep, magical love for song. However, their music can only be truly appreciated in its proper environment. Above the surface of the water, the voices of the merpeople sound like a harsh, piercing screech that is painful to human ears. This is because their vocal cords are biologically designed to vibrate through the dense medium of water, not the air. Beneath the surface, this screeching is transformed into a haunting, beautiful, and croaky melody. Their native language, Mermish, is a complex tongue of clicks, whistles, and deep tonal notes that can travel for miles through the cold water. The merpeople of the Black Lake have a highly structured society. They are governed by a chieftainess, a formidable selkie named Mercus, who rules the colony with authority and wisdom. For centuries, the merpeople have maintained a neutral, respectful relationship with the school, though they have declined being classified as beings by the Ministry of Magic, preferring to remain classified as beasts to avoid being grouped with hags and vampires. They possess human-like intelligence and a deep understanding of magical lore. They guard their territory fiercely, but they are also known to assist the school governors and the headmaster when called upon. Deep below the merpeople village, in the absolute darkest, coldest abyss of the lake, lies the territory of the lake's largest and most famous resident, the giant squid. In the Muggle world, giant squids are legendary monsters of the deep ocean, feared by sailors for centuries as ship-sinking krakens. But the giant squid of Hogwarts defies all of these terrifying myths. It is a massive cephalopod, with tentacles that can stretch for dozens of feet and an eye the size of a carriage wheel. Yet, despite its colossal size and immense physical power, it is a remarkably gentle and benevolent creature. The giant squid has lived in the lake for generations, and its presence is a source of comfort to the students of Hogwarts. It is highly intelligent and has developed a warm, friendly relationship with the humans living above its dark home. On warm, sunny days, the squid can often be seen basking near the surface of the water, letting its massive, rubbery tentacles drift lazily in the shallows. Students sitting on the lawn will often throw pieces of toast into the water, which the squid will gently catch and pull beneath the surface. It has even been known to play with students who swim too close, tickling their feet with the very tips of its tentacles. The giant squid also acts as an unofficial lifeguard for the lake. Over the years, many clumsy students have fallen from the wooden rowboats that carry the first years across the water. In almost every instance, the giant squid has gently scooped up the drowning student in its massive, soft tentacles and deposited them safely back into their boat or onto the shore. Because of this, the school treats the creature with great respect, and the groundskeeper often ensures it has enough food during the harsh, freezing Scottish winters. The relationship between the giant squid and the merpeople is much more complex. While the squid is gentle with humans, it is still a massive predator that occupies a dominant position in the lake's food chain. In the merpeople village, there is a large painted rock that depicts merfolk carrying spears and chasing the giant squid away from their homes. This suggests that while the squid is peaceful, its sheer size and territorial movements can occasionally cause tension with the Selkie colony. However, they have lived side by side for centuries, and both species have learned to respect each other's boundaries in the dark water. The Black Lake is not just a cold body of water next to a school. It is a brilliant example of a closed magical ecosystem. Every creature, from the smallest fish to the towering giant squid, plays a vital role in maintaining the health and balance of these waters. The grindylows keep the fish populations in check, the merpeople manage the underwater plant life and govern the territory, and the giant squid keeps the deepest trenches free of larger, more dangerous magical hazards. It is a world of shadow, song, and ancient magic, thriving in the cold, silent depths of the Scottish Highlands. Chapter 6: Serpents and Dark Magic. The deep waters of our world have always held a unique place in Magizoology. Unlike the open sky or the dense forests, the underwater realm remains largely hidden from our eyes, cloaked in cold darkness and immense pressure. Beneath the surface of Great Britain's lakes, lochs, and rivers lies a highly complex ecosystem where ancient magic thrives. For centuries, wizards and witches have looked upon these dark waters with a mixture of fear and fascination. To study the creatures of the deep is to step into a world where human senses are limited, and where survival depends entirely on understanding the unique biology and behaviors of the beasts that call the abyss their home. Our descent into this aquatic bestiary begins in the shallow weed beds, where the light of the sun just manages to penetrate the murky green depths. Here, hiding among the tangled water plants, lives one of the most common yet troublesome water demons in the British Isles, the Grindylow, classified by the Ministry of Magic as a double X creature, meaning it is technically considered harmless and capable of being domesticated. The Grindylow is nevertheless a persistent nuisance to any witch or wizard who dares to swim in its territory. To look upon a Grindylow is to see a creature designed for ambush. They are small, sickly, pale green creatures with sharp, tiny horns protruding from their heads. Their most defining anatomical feature is their hands. The Grindylow possesses abnormally long, spindly fingers. When a human or animal swims too close to their nesting grounds, these water demons will dart out from the weeds, using their long fingers to grip the feet and ankles of their victims, attempting to drag them down into the suffocating mud. Despite their aggressive nature and terrifying appearance, Grindylows are remarkably fragile. The secret to surviving a Grindylow attack lies in understanding their skeletal structure. While their long fingers can exert a surprisingly powerful grip, those same fingers are incredibly brittle. A simple, well-placed spell, such as the Revulsion Jinx, which shoots a jet of boiling water, is usually enough to force them to let go. Alternatively, a physical blow to their hands will easily snap their delicate bones, causing the water demon to retreat into the shadows. Because of this fatal weakness, they pose little threat to a prepared wizard. Interestingly, they are not entirely wild. The merpeople of the Great Lake have successfully domesticated grindylows, keeping them in much the same way humans keep aggressive guard dogs, tethering them near their homes to ward off intruders. As we move deeper into the dark, silent waters, the vegetation thins and the aquatic landscape gives way to vast, submerged valleys. It is here that we encounter the true rulers of the deep, the merpeople. To understand the merpeople is to understand a species of immense intelligence, rich culture, and ancient history. While Muggle folklore often depicts mermaids as beautiful, singing maidens with the tails of fish, the reality of these beings is far more varied and complex. The Ministry of Magic classifies merpeople as a 4X beast, a designation that commands respect rather than indicating pure hostility. This classification is a matter of historical significance. When the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures was established, merpeople, alongside centaurs, were offered the official status of beings rather than beasts. This meant they would be recognized as having equal intelligence and legal standing to wizards. However, the merpeople flatly refused this status. They did not wish to be classified under the same legal umbrella as hags and vampires, preferring instead to manage their own affairs entirely free from wizarding interference. By their own choice, they remain classified as beasts. Though any Magizoologist will tell you their society is as sophisticated as our own, merpeople are found all over the globe, and their appearance varies wildly depending on the temperature of the water they inhabit. The oldest recorded merpeople are the Sirens, native to the warm, sunlit waters of Greece. These are the beautiful creatures of Muggle legend, possessing fair skin and striking features. However, in the colder northern waters of the British Isles, we find different subspecies. In Ireland, they are known as merrows, while in the deep lakes of Scotland, such as the Great Lake at Hogwarts, they are known as selkies. A selkie is built for the harsh, freezing depths. They are large, powerful creatures, often reaching heights of 7 feet. Their skin is not pale or fair, but rather a cold, stony grey covered in fine scales that protect them from the chill. Their hair is wild and dark green, flowing like seaweed in the currents, and their eyes are a striking bloodshot yellow. They possess powerful silvery fishtails that allow them to navigate the deep currents with incredible speed and agility. Around their necks they often wear heavy hand-carved stone amulets, and they carry spears made of sharpened bone or driftwood, which they use both for hunting and for defense. The culture of the Selkies is highly organized. They live in structured underwater villages, with homes constructed of rough stone, decorated with algae and freshwater shells. They have their own language, Mermish, which is entirely unsuited for the air. To a human standing on the shore, Mermish sounds like a harsh, piercing screech, a grating noise that hurts the ears. But beneath the water, the physics of sound change. Below the surface, Mermish transforms into a hauntingly beautiful, melodic song that can carry for miles across the lake bed. This love of music is a universal trait shared by all merpeople, from the beautiful sirens of Greece to the grey-skinned selkies of the Scottish Highlands. They are fiercely protective of their territory, but they are not inherently evil. If treated with proper respect and spoken to in their own tongue, they are capable of forming deep alliances and showing great nobility. Yet, not all large creatures in the cold northern waters are open to negotiation. If you travel to the isolated lochs of Scotland, you must always be on guard for the Kelpie. The Kelpie is a terrifying, shape-shifting water demon, classified as a 4X threat by the Ministry of Magic. Unlike the merpeople who seek isolation, the Kelpie actively hunts humans, using cunning and illusion to lure its prey to a watery grave. The Kelpie can take almost any form it desires, but its preferred shape when hunting on land is that of a magnificent, powerful horse. It will stand near the edge of a river or loch, its coat glistening as if wet, and its mane appearing to be made of long, tangled bulrushes or kelp. To a tired traveller, the horse appears to be a gentle, stray beast, offering an easy ride across the difficult terrain. This is the Kelpie's trap. The moment an unsuspecting person climbs onto its back, they are doomed. The Kelpie's skin possesses a highly adhesive magical quality. Once a rider makes contact, they find themselves physically fused to the beast, unable to dismount. With its prey trapped, the Kelpie will leap into the deepest part of the water, diving straight to the muddy bottom. The rider is quickly drowned in the freezing depths. Once the victim is dead, the Kelpie will tear them apart, devouring every part of the body except for the entrails, which it allows to float to the surface as a grim warning of its presence. To overcome a Kelpie, a witch or wizard must possess quick reflexes and specialist knowledge. The standard method of subduing this beast is to use a placement charm to force a bridle over its head. If you can successfully bridle a Kelpie, the magical restraint immediately breaks its spirit, rendering the demon completely docile and harmless. The most famous Kelpie in the world resides in Loch Ness, Scotland. This beast has achieved legendary status among both wizards and muggles, who know it simply as the Loch Ness Monster. The Loch Ness Kelpie is colossal, the largest of its kind ever recorded. Its favourite form is that of a giant sea serpent, a shape so convincing that it has occasionally exposed the magical world to muggle eyes. The International Confederation of Wizards must constantly monitor Loch Ness to ensure the beast does not cause a breach of the Statute of Secrecy. Fortunately, the Kelpie is highly elusive. When muggle investigators approach, it will instantly shift its shape into a simple river otter, waiting patiently for the coast to clear before transforming back into a towering serpent of the deep. Finally, we must look at the largest and perhaps most misunderstood inhabitant of the deep waters, the giant squid. In the Muggle world, giant squids are legendary monsters of the deep ocean, aggressive predators that battle sperm whales in the pitch-black abyss. But the magical world has a very different relationship with this species, particularly the famous specimen that lives in the Great Lake at Hogwarts. The Hogwarts giant squid is a true marvel of magizoology. Despite its intimidating size, with tentacles that can reach dozens of feet in length, this creature has shown a level of gentleness and intelligence that defies its monstrous appearance. Unlike its wild, deep-sea cousins, the Great Lake squid has lived alongside young witches and wizards for generations, developing a remarkably friendly disposition. Students at the castle often sit by the edge of the water on sunny days, tossing pieces of toast into the lake, which the giant squid will delicately retrieve with the tips of its massive tentacles. It has even been known to swim near the surface to let students tickle its arms, basking in the attention like a giant aquatic pet. More importantly, the giant squid acts as an unofficial guardian of the lake. On several occasions when young students have accidentally fallen from boats or slipped from the shore, the squid has gently nudged them back to the surface or carried them safely to land, preventing what could have been terrible tragedies. The presence of the giant squid, alongside the villages of the Selkies, the hidden nests of the Grindylows, and the shifting shadows of the deep, reminds us that the waters of our world are not empty voids. They are rich, living landscapes filled with ancient magic and complex life. As magizoologists, we must continue to study these depths with respect and caution, recognizing that beneath the calm, glassy surface of any lake lies a world as wild, as beautiful, and as dangerous as any land we walk upon. Chapter 7. Treasures, Tricks, and Gold Seekers. When we think of the magical beasts that populate our world, our minds often wander to the grand and dangerous. We picture the fierce breath of a dragon, the shadow of a hippogriff flying through the clouds, or the silent, deadly gaze of a basilisk. But the magical world is not only made of monsters and giants, it is also filled with smaller, clever, and highly mischievous creatures. These animals do not want to conquer the world or hunt down wizards. Instead, they are driven by simple desires, such as a love for shiny things, a duty to protect their favourite trees, or a passion for playing harmless tricks on humans. Today we turn our attention to these smaller wonders, exploring the lighter side of magical beast study. We will look closely at three fascinating creatures: the treasure-hunting Niffler, the loyal bowtruckle, and the trickster leprechaun. We begin with the Niffler, a creature that has captured the hearts of many, even as it empties their pockets. At first glance, a Niffler might remind you of a small, fluffy cross between a mole and a duck-billed platypus. It has soft, jet-black fur, a long snout, and wide, spade-like front paws that are perfectly designed for burrowing deep into the earth. Native to Great Britain, these gentle creatures typically live in underground lairs that can go as deep as 20 feet below the surface. In the wild, they use their powerful claws to dig through dirt and rock with incredible speed, moving through the earth almost as easily as a fish swims through water. However, it is not the Niffler's digging speed that makes it famous. It is the creature's absolute unstoppable obsession with anything that glitters. Gold, silver, diamonds, buckles, or even simple metal toy pieces. If it shines, a Niffler wants it. When a Niffler spots a shiny object, its natural instincts take over completely. It will climb, jump, squeeze through tiny gaps, and dig through solid walls just to reach the treasure. The most magical part of the Niffler's biology is its belly pouch. Like a muggle marsupial, a female Niffler has a pouch on her stomach, but this pouch is far from ordinary. It possesses a natural, permanent extension charm, similar to the bags of holding used by wizards. This allows a single Niffler to swallow or stuff an impossible amount of treasure into its pouch. A Niffler can pack away dozens of gold coins, heavy necklaces, silver cups, and even solid gold bars without its belly showing any signs of stretching or weighing the creature down. Because of this unique talent, Nifflers have a long history of working alongside wizards. Goblins, who are famous for their love of gold and buried treasures, often keep Nifflers to help them dig deep underground and locate hidden riches. While they can be trained to hunt for treasure, keeping a Niffler as a household pet is highly discouraged by Magizoologists. Despite their gentle and affectionate nature, Nifflers are incredibly destructive when kept indoors. A Niffler left alone in a house will tear up floorboards, rip cushions apart, smash expensive vases, and chew through jewelry boxes in its search for metal and gemstones. This destructive nature was famously shown during a dark period at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. To prank the highly unpopular High Inquisitor Dolores Umbridge, a student named Lee Jordan used a levitation charm to float Nifflers through her office window. The creatures proceeded to completely destroy her office, tearing down the pink decorations and even attempting to bite the sparkling rings right off her fingers when she walked in. It was a perfect demonstration of how a Niffler's single-minded focus on shiny objects can cause absolute chaos. Next, we move from the underground burrows of Britain to the high branches of the forests, where we find the bowtruckle. If the Niffler is a creature of the earth, the bowtruckle is a creature of the trees. Found mostly in western England, southern Germany, and certain Scandinavian forests. The bowtruckle is a tiny, hand-sized creature that looks like a flat-faced stick figure made entirely of bark, twigs, and leaves. This appearance serves as the perfect camouflage. When a bowtruckle stands still against a tree branch, it is almost impossible for human eyes, especially muggle eyes, to spot it. Bowtruckles are intensely shy and peaceful creatures. They live in groups called branches and spend their days eating small insects, particularly woodlice, which they dig out from under tree bark using their long twig-like fingers. However, their peaceful nature changes completely if their home is threatened. Bowtruckles do not live in just any ordinary forest tree. They are highly selective, choosing to nest only in trees whose wood is of wand-making quality, such as the Wigton tree. Because of this, they are known as tree guardians. If a woodcutter or a wizard approaches a bowtruckle's home tree with an axe or a saw, the tiny creatures will defend their territory with surprising ferocity. They will leap down from the high branches onto the intruder, using their long, sharp fingers, which are normally used for catching bugs. They will attempt to gouge out the eyes of the person trying to harm their tree. Because of this danger, wand makers and wizards have had to find peaceful ways to gather wandwood. To safely take a leaf or a branch from a wandwood tree, one must offer a distraction. Bowtruckles can be easily bribed with their favourite treats, such as woodlice or fairy eggs. By placing a small pile of these insects on the ground, a wizard can keep the bowtruckles occupied long enough to respectfully cut a piece of wood without facing a sudden sharp attack to the face. Despite their fierce defense of their homes, bowtruckles can form deep bonds with humans who show them kindness and respect. The famous Magizoologist Newt Scamander was known to carry a bowtruckle named Picket in his pocket. Picket was incredibly attached to Newt, often refusing to stay with the other bowtruckles in Newt's magical case. Picket's small size and thin, flexible fingers also proved to be highly useful in difficult situations, as he was capable of picking complex locks with ease. This shows that while bowtruckles are wild guardians, they possess a quiet intelligence and a capacity for deep loyalty. Finally, we journey to Ireland to meet one of the most famous tricksters of the magical world, the leprechaun, sometimes known as the chloricorn. Reaching a height of about 6 inches, the leprechaun is a green-skinned humanoid creature that typically wears clothing made out of green leaves. They are fully intelligent and capable of human speech, yet they have always preferred to be classified as beasts rather than beings by the Ministry of Magic. Leprechauns are vegetarian, feeding mostly on leaves and forest plants. They live deep in forests and wooded areas. But unlike the secretive bowtruckle, leprechauns actually enjoy attracting human attention. Their playful interactions with muggles over the centuries have made them a major part of Muggle children's stories and folklore in Ireland and beyond. The leprechaun's most famous ability is their power to create a glittering gold-like substance. This substance, widely known as leprechaun gold, looks, feels and sounds exactly like real wizarding gold, often appearing in the form of galleons. However, this gold is not real. It has a unique magical property that causes it to completely vanish after a few hours, leaving behind absolutely nothing. Leprechauns find great amusement in watching humans fight over, trade or pocket this gold, knowing that it will soon disappear into thin air. This vanishing gold has caused many funny and sometimes stressful situations in wizarding history. During the 1994 Quidditch World Cup, the Irish national Quidditch team brought leprechauns as their official mascots. During the pre-match show, the leprechauns flew over the stadium, forming a massive glittering shamrock in the sky and raining thousands of gold coins down onto the excited crowd. Many wizards, including young Ron Weasley, eagerly gathered the coins, believing they had suddenly become rich. Ron even used his collected gold to buy magical binoculars from his friend Harry. However, the next morning, the gold vanished from his pockets, leaving him deeply embarrassed, though Harry did not mind at all. The same Quidditch World Cup match saw a much worse fate for Ludo Bagman, the head of the Department of Magical Games and Sports. Bagman, who had a serious gambling problem, used leprechaun gold to pay off a massive bet he lost to the young Weasley twins, Fred and George. When the twins realized the gold had vanished, they tried to get their real money back, but Bagman fled, showing how a leprechaun's harmless prank can sometimes have very real consequences in the human world. What is truly wonderful about these three creatures is how their paths sometimes cross in the study of Magizoology. During a Care of Magical Creatures lesson at Hogwarts, Hagrid decided to teach his students about both Nifflers and leprechauns at the same time. He buried a large amount of leprechaun gold in the dirt and challenged the students to use Nifflers to dig it up, offering a prize to the student whose Niffler found the most. It was a highly entertaining lesson, but it also taught the students a valuable lesson about the illusions of the magical world. The gold they worked so hard to dig up simply vanished by the end of the afternoon. These creatures show us that the study of magical beasts is not always about survival and danger. Sometimes it is about appreciating the clever, colourful, and light-hearted ways that magic expresses itself in nature. Whether it is a Niffler stuffing a gold bar into its impossible pocket, a bowtruckle standing guard over a precious tree, or a leprechaun laughing as its gold turns to mist, these beasts remind us of the joy and wonder that makes the wizarding world so magical. Chapter 8: Creatures of Fire and Rebirth. Fire has always been one of the most mysterious and powerful forces in the magical world. It can destroy, but it can also create and renew. In the study of magical beasts, we find two extraordinary creatures that are born from the very essence of fire. One is the immortal phoenix, a creature of light, healing, and endless rebirth. The other is the ashwinder, a strange, short-lived serpent, born from the cooling embers of a magical flame. Together, these two beasts show us how fire can shape life in completely different ways. Let us begin with the phoenix, one of the most beautiful and respected creatures in existence. A phoenix is a large, majestic bird, about the size of a swan. It is easily recognized by its bright scarlet feathers, which cover its body and glow softly in the dark. Its tail is long and golden, shining like a peacock's tail. Its beak and claws are also a gleaming gold, and its eyes are dark and full of deep intelligence. The most famous property of the phoenix is its ability to live forever through a cycle of fire and rebirth. When a phoenix grows old and its feathers begin to fall out, it does not die in the way other creatures do. Instead, it reaches its burning day. On this day, the old bird bursts into flames and turns completely to ash. But this is not the end. From those very ashes, a tiny, wrinkled, newborn phoenix emerges to start its life all over again. Because of this endless cycle, the phoenix is a symbol of hope, renewal, and the triumph of life over death. The magical properties of a phoenix are as legendary as its rebirth. Their tears are famous across the wizarding world for having incredible healing powers. A single tear from a phoenix can heal almost any wound, even the deadly poison of a basilisk. Their song is also highly magical. It is a beautiful, haunting sound that can increase the courage of those who are pure of heart, giving them strength in their darkest moments. At the same time, this same song can strike fear and dread into the hearts of evil people. Wizards also value the physical strength of these birds. Despite their swan-like size, they can carry immensely heavy loads, easily lifting several people at once. They also possess a unique way of traveling. A phoenix can disappear and reappear at will in a flash of bright fire, taking anyone holding onto them along for the ride. This is a form of teleportation that even bypasses many magical barriers. Because of these incredible abilities, phoenix feathers are highly prized as wand cores. Wands with a phoenix feather core are known for their great initiative and range of magic. They are often difficult to master, as they are highly selective in choosing their owner, but they are capable of performing the greatest magic. The two twin wands of Harry Potter and Lord Voldemort both contained feathers from the very same phoenix, Albus Dumbledore's loyal companion Fawkes. Despite their peaceful nature, the Ministry of Magic classifies the phoenix under Category 4, meaning it requires specialist knowledge to handle. This high classification is not because the phoenix is dangerous or aggressive. In fact, they eat only herbs and are incredibly gentle. Instead, they receive this rating because they are almost impossible to domesticate. A phoenix will only bind itself to a wizard of exceptional character and power. One of the few known examples of a domesticated phoenix was Fawkes, who lived with Albus Dumbledore. Fawkes showed incredible loyalty, not only to Dumbledore, but also to those who shared Dumbledore's values. In the Chamber of Secrets, Fawkes arrived to help Harry Potter, blinding the Basilisk and healing Harry's fatal wound with his tears. Later, Fawkes even shielded Dumbledore by swallowing a killing curse, bursting into ash and immediately reborn as a chick. When Dumbledore died, Fawkes sang a mournful song that echoed over Hogwarts before flying away forever, never to be seen again. While the phoenix represents the noble and eternal side of fire, the ashwinder represents its sudden, chaotic, and destructive nature. The ashwinder is a magical serpent that is not born from an egg in the traditional way. Instead, it is created when a magical fire, such as a fire connected to the flue network, is left to burn unchecked and unsupervised for too long. From the dying red-hot embers of this untended fire, a thin, pale grey snake with glowing red eyes will rise. The life of an ashwinder is incredibly short, lasting only about 1 hour. As soon as it is born, the serpent slithers away from the fireplace, seeking a dark, quiet and cold spot inside the building. As it moves, it leaves a thin trail of ash behind it. The sole purpose of the ashwinder's brief existence is to find a safe place to lay its eggs. Once the ashwinder finds a suitable dark corner, it lays its eggs and immediately collapses into dust. Though the snake is gone, its legacy can be extremely dangerous. Ashwinder eggs are bright red and give off an intense, growing heat. If these eggs are not found quickly and frozen with a professional freezing charm, they will eventually ignite. Within minutes, the eggs can set fire to the entire building, burning it to the ground. Because of this danger, any wizard who notices an ashwinder in their home must act immediately. They must trace the ash trail to find the nest and secure the eggs. Once the eggs are safely frozen, however, they become highly valuable. Frozen ashwinder eggs are a prized ingredient in many powerful potions, including love potions. They can also be eaten whole by wizards as an effective cure for ague, a severe kind of fever. The danger of these creatures was made famous during a historical event at Hogwarts. During the time of headmaster Armando Dippet, the school decided to put on a Christmas play based on the wizarding fairy tale, The Fountain of Fair Fortune. The care of magical creatures teacher at the time, Professor Sylvanus Kettleburn, provided an ashwinder to play the part of the giant worm in the story. To make the snake look larger for the stage, Professor Kettleburn performed an engorgement charm on it. This turned out to be a disastrous mistake. One should never place an engorgement charm on an ashwinder. The enlarged serpent grew highly unstable and exploded in a massive shower of hot sparks, ash and dust. The giant eggs it laid quickly ignited, setting fire to the Great Hall and destroying the entire theatrical set. The chaos was so great that it ended the tradition of Christmas plays at Hogwarts, and Professor Kettleburn was placed on probation. Both the phoenix and the ashwinder show us how magic and fire are deeply linked. The phoenix represents the warmth of the sun, the light of hope, and a spirit that can never be destroyed. It rises from the ashes of its old self to live again, bringing healing and courage to the world. The ashwinder, on the other hand, represents the wild, untamed energy of a fire left alone. It is born from neglect, lives a fast and silent life, and leaves behind a fiery danger that must be handled with great care. For any student of Magizoology, understanding these creatures means understanding the balance of the natural magical world. Fire can be a loyal companion like the phoenix, or a hidden danger like the ashwinder. By studying their behaviors, their origins, and their unique magical properties, we learn to respect the powerful forces that shape the lives of these extraordinary beasts. Chapter 9: Household Pests and Domestic Nuisances. To the untrained eye, a wizarding household is a place of endless wonder, where dishes wash themselves, fires crackle with green flue powder, and rooms expand far beyond their external dimensions. Yet, this concentration of magical energy acts as a beacon for a very different kind of inhabitant. Just as Muggle homes must contend with mice, termites, and common mold, the magical home is subject to its own unique class of domestic invaders. These are the household pests and domestic nuisances of the wizarding world. They are creatures that find our dwellings, our cellars, and our gardens to be the perfect habitats for their disruptive, destructive, and sometimes highly venomous activities. For any witch or wizard, understanding how to manage, deter, and safely remove these unwanted guests is a fundamental part of daily life. We begin our practical survey of domestic nuisances in the garden, where the most common culprit is undoubtedly the gnome, known in scientific circles as Gernumbly gardensi. Unlike the harmless painted clay statues that Muggles place on their lawns to evoke a sense of fairy tale charm, A true magical gnome is a living, breathing, and highly stubborn creature. Standing at roughly 1 foot tall, a gnome possesses a disproportionately large, bald head that closely resembles a muddy potato, supported by tough, leathery skin and hard, bony feet. They are burrowing creatures by nature, digging elaborate tunnels beneath flower beds and lawns to feed on the roots of plants. In doing so, they leave unsightly mounds of earth that can ruin even the most carefully tended herb garden. Dealing with a gnome infestation requires a traditional, hands-on approach known simply as denoming. While some wizards might resort to more extreme measures, the most common and humane method is gnome tossing. To denome a garden, one must physically catch the creatures, which is easier said than done, as they are surprisingly quick and possess sharp, needle-like teeth. A firm grip behind the neck is essential to avoid a painful bite. Once secured, the wizard must swing the gnome in broad, rapid circles. This is not done out of malice, but to make the creature thoroughly dizzy. Once the gnome's eyes are spinning, it is launched over the garden wall or hedge. The physics of gnome tossing are simple yet effective. The disorientation prevents the gnome from immediately finding its way back to its burrow. When it finally recovers, it will usually wander off into a neighbor's garden instead. However, gnomes are not known for their high intelligence, and they possess a stubborn attachment to comfortable feeding grounds. Within a few days, they will inevitably begin to trundle back, meaning that garden maintenance is a continuous revolving cycle of vigilance and physical effort. If the garden presents a physical challenge, the interior of the home can harbor pests that are far more insidious. Chief among these is the doxy, often referred to as the biting fairy. Though they bear a passing resemblance to true fairies, a close inspection reveals a far more sinister creature. Doxies are covered in thick, coarse black hair, and they possess an extra pair of arms and legs, giving them a distinctly spider-like appearance. Most concerning, however, are their wings, which are thick, curved, and shiny, much like those of a beetle, and their double rows of incredibly sharp, venomous teeth. Doxies prefer cold, damp climates and are drawn to dark, neglected spaces inside houses. Unused rooms, heavy drapes, and dusty curtains are prime nesting grounds for these pests. When a colony of doxies takes hold, they can quickly ruin fabrics and make a room entirely uninhabitable. Their bite is highly painful and delivers a potent venom that requires the immediate administration of a specific antidote. To clear a doxy infestation, a wizard must rely on chemical warfare. The standard remedy is doxycide, a black, foul-smelling liquid that is typically sprayed directly onto the infested curtains or upholstery. The fumes of doxycide act as a powerful paralytic agent, knocking the doxies unconscious and causing them to fall safely to the floor, where they can be swept up and disposed of. During this process, extreme care must be taken to gather their eggs. Doxy eggs are laid in large, yellowish clusters and are highly sought after by dark potion makers, as well as mischievous students looking to create specialized pranks. Leaving even a single egg sac behind can lead to a prompt reinfestation within weeks. Moving from the curtains to the topmost levels of the house, we find an inhabitant that is loud, dirty, but surprisingly tolerated by many old wizarding families: the ghoul. Classified as a beast rather than a spirit, a ghoul is an ugly, buck-toothed creature that resembles a slimy, somewhat dim-witted ogre. Ghouls are naturally drawn to attics, lofts, and old barns, where they can find a steady supply of their favorite foods, namely spiders, moths, and other small household insects. A ghoul is not a particularly dangerous creature. It lacks the malice of dark entities, and is generally content to coexist peacefully with the human residents below. However, they are exceptionally noisy neighbors. A resident ghoul will frequently express itself by groaning loudly, howling in the dead of night, and violently rattling pipes or throwing loose objects around the attic. While this behavior can be highly alarming to visitors, many wizards view their resident ghoul with a sense of affection, treating it almost as a bizarre family pet. There are times, however, when a ghoul must be removed. This is particularly true when a wizarding home is being sold to muggles, who would undoubtedly find the midnight wailing and pipe rattling to be a sign of a terrifying haunting. In such cases, the Ministry of Magic deploys the Ghoul Task Force, a specialized division within the department for the regulation and control of magical creatures. These trained wizards use targeted spells to coax the ghoul out of its hiding place and safely relocate it to a wild habitat. In more stubborn cases, where a ghoul has taken a particular liking to a specific attic, wizards must resort to clever transfiguration or containment charms to ensure the property is completely clear. While ghouls are merely loud, another domestic pest poses a silent structural threat to the very integrity of the home: the bundymun. In its quietest state, a bundymun can be easily mistaken for a patch of greenish, rotting mold spreading across a damp wall or beneath floorboards. However, this is actually a living creature. When disturbed, a bundymun will reveal itself, sprouting a multitude of spindly, translucent legs and scurrying away with surprising speed. The danger of a bundymun lies in its secretions. The creature produces a highly acidic, foul-smelling liquid that smells strongly of decay. This secretion is so potent that it can eat through solid wood, stone and plaster in a matter of days. If left unchecked, a bundymun infestation can literally rot a house from the inside out, causing ceilings to collapse and floors to give way. Eliminating a bundymun requires prompt and decisive action. For small, localized patches, a simple scouring charm such as Scourgify, applied with sufficient willpower, can dissolve the creature and neutralize the acid. However, if the infestation has spread deep into the foundations of the house, professional help must be summoned. The Ministry's Pest Control Unit uses specialized potions and heavy-duty localized spells to purge the structure, followed by extensive repairs to reinforce the weakened timbers. Finally, we must look at the smallest, yet perhaps most frustrating of all household pests: the Chispurfle, measuring a mere 20th of an inch in length. These tiny crab-like parasites are virtually invisible to the naked eye. They are naturally drawn to magic, often hitching a ride into the home on the fur of larger magical beasts, such as Krups or Neasels, or nesting within the fibers of enchanted clothing. Once inside a wizarding dwelling, Chispurfics seek out sources of magical energy to feed upon. They are notoriously fond of cauldron dregs, particularly the lingering droplets of highly active potions. More alarmingly, they will chew their way into magical instruments and objects, draining the magic from them and rendering them useless. In Muggle households, where magical energy is absent, Chispurfus will instead migrate toward electrical appliances. They nest inside the wiring of toasters, radios and engines, gnawing through the components and causing sudden, inexplicable electrical failures that leave Muggle repairmen utterly baffled. Preventing a Chispurfle infestation involves keeping cauldrons scrupulously clean and regularly treating household pets with defensive charms. If they do take hold, a range of patented commercial potions can be purchased to spray over affected areas, safely dissolving the parasites without damaging the underlying magic of the household items. Ultimately, the key to maintaining a peaceful, safe and clean magical home is constant vigilance. The creatures that seek to share our spaces are not acting out of malice. They are simply following their natural instincts, drawn to the warmth, protection, and rich magical atmosphere that our homes provide. By understanding their behaviors, recognizing the early signs of their presence, and applying the correct, time-tested methods of removal, a wizard can ensure that their home remains a sanctuary for their family and not a haven for magical pests. Chapter 10. The Shadow Creatures, Spirits and Shapeshifters. When the Ministry of Magic established the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures, they faced a monumental task. Defining what constitutes a beast, a being, or a spirit was not just a matter of academic interest, it was a legal and ethical necessity. Yet, as any experienced magizoologist will tell you, nature rarely conforms to the neat categories we try to impose upon it. In the deepest shadows of our world, There exist entities that blur these boundaries entirely. These are not creatures born of flesh and blood, nor are they typical animals searching for food and territory. Instead, they are spirits, shapeshifters, and victims of ancient curses. To truly understand them, we must look beyond our standard definitions and peer into the very fabric of human emotion and magic. In 1811, Minister for Magic Grogan Stump revolutionized our understanding of the magical world by creating 3 distinct divisions: beasts, beings, and spirits. This system solved many historical debates, but it also highlighted a group of entities that defied the laws of biology. These are the non-beings, also known as amortals. Unlike mortals, who are born and must eventually die, and unlike immortals, who can live forever but can still be killed, amortals were never alive to begin with. Consequently, they cannot be killed or destroyed. They can only be driven off or contained. Amortals are physical or semi-physical manifestations of human emotion. They feed on our feelings, and they multiply in places where those feelings are strongest. They grow much like fungi in dark, decaying areas of the human mind, taking shape from our shared psychological landscape. The most common of these immortal non-beings is the boggart. Almost every witch or wizard has encountered one of these troublesome spirits, usually hiding in a dark, enclosed space such as a wardrobe, a drawer, or under a bed. The boggart is a shapeshifter, but it does not possess a true form of its own. It is the physical manifestation of fear itself. When a boggart is alone in the dark, nobody knows what it looks like. It is a formless void of potential. But the moment it encounters a human, it instantly reads their mind and transforms into whatever that person fears most. For one person, it might be a giant spider. For another, a severe schoolteacher, a corpse, or a representation of failure. The boggart does not hunt for food in the traditional sense. It feeds on the sudden, sharp burst of terror it inspires in its victims. This dependence on human emotion is both its strength and its weakness. Because it is created by human psychology, it is highly susceptible to human laughter. Laughter is the ultimate antidote to fear. To defeat a boggart, a wizard must use the ridiculous charm. This spell does not destroy the non-being, but rather forces it to transform into something amusing. If the victim can see their worst fear turned into something ridiculous, they will laugh, and the laughter will weaken the boggart, eventually forcing it to retreat or vanish back into the shadows. The best defense against a boggart is to face it in a crowd, as the spirit becomes confused and cannot decide which person's fear to project, often resulting in a comical mix of half-formed shapes. While the boggart represents the sudden shock of fear, its larger and far more dangerous cousin, the Dementor, represents the slow, consuming poison of despair. Dementors are among the foulest non-beings to walk the earth. They are tall, skeletal figures shrouded in tattered black cloaks, and they glide silently just above the ground. Their skin is grey, clammy, and decaying, resembling something that has rotted in water. They have no eyes. Instead, where a mouth should be, there is a gaping void. As they move, the air around them freezes, and all warmth and happiness are drained from the environment. Like boggarts, Dementors are immortal. They were never born, and they cannot die. Instead, they multiply in places of dense misery, growing like a dark mist where sorrow and decay are allowed to fester. Historically, they have been closely associated with the island fortress of Azkaban. In the 15th century, a dark wizard named Ecrisdis lived on this isolated island in the North Sea, practicing unspeakable dark magic and torturing Muggle sailors. When he died and the concealment charms faded, the Ministry of Magic discovered the fortress and found it swarming with Dementors. The intense suffering of Ecrisdis's victims had literally brought these creatures into existence, or at least provided the perfect environment for them to gather and multiply. Dementors feed on human happiness. When a person is near a Dementor, they are forced to relive their worst memories, while every cheerful thought is slowly sucked away. Prolonged exposure to these entities leads to severe depression, madness, and a complete loss of the will to live. Their ultimate weapon is the Dementor's kiss. During this horrific act, a Dementor clamps its mouth over the victim's lips and forcibly extracts their soul. This does not kill the body. The physical heart continues to beat and the lungs continue to breathe. However, the person is left as an empty shell, completely devoid of consciousness, memory, or self-awareness. It is a fate widely considered worse than death because Dementors are immortal. They cannot be destroyed by physical force or standard offensive spells. The only known defense against them is the Patronus charm. To cast this advanced piece of magic, a wizard must concentrate on a single, highly powerful happy memory while chanting the incantation. The spell produces a silver guardian, often taking the shape of an animal that reflects the caster's personality. The Patronus is a projection of pure positive energy, representing hope, happiness, and the desire to protect. Because the Patronus contains no dark emotions or despair, the Dementors cannot feed on it, and they are driven back by its brilliant light. While Boggarts and Dementors represent external spiritual threats born of human emotion, the wizarding world faces an entirely different category of shadow creature, the werewolf. The curse of the werewolf, or lycanthropy, represents an internal struggle, where the beast and the human are trapped within the same body. For centuries, the Ministry of Magic struggled with how to classify werewolves. They are not non-beings, and they are certainly not spirits. Instead, they are humans who have been afflicted with a terrible, highly infectious magical illness. The Ministry's policies on werewolves have historically been inconsistent and deeply flawed. In the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures, werewolves were constantly shunted between the Beast Division and the Being Division. When in their human form, werewolves are fully conscious, intelligent citizens, meaning they should be classified as beings. However, during the full moon, they transform into wild, uncontrollable beasts with a relentless urge to hunt humans. This dual nature led to massive bureaucratic confusion. At one point, the Werewolf Registry and the Werewolf Capture Unit were placed in the Beast Division, while the Office for Werewolf Support Services was in the Being Division. This division of services only served to alienate and stigmatize those who suffered from the condition, as few were willing to register and admit to their affliction. Lycanthropy is transmitted through saliva when a transformed werewolf bites a human. The bite is highly toxic, and if the victim survives, the curse takes root in their blood. Once infected, there is no known cure. Every month, when the moon is completely full, the victim undergoes an agonizing physical transformation. Their bones stretch, their skin sprouts thick fur, and their skull reshapes into that of a wolf. During this time, the human mind is entirely suppressed. The werewolf does not remember who they are, and they will attack anyone they encounter, including their closest friends and family members. Interestingly, a transformed werewolf will only actively hunt humans. They show little interest in other animals or magical beasts. For centuries, the monthly transformation was a time of pure terror for both the victims and their communities. However, the invention of the wolfsbane potion by the brilliant potineer Damocles Belby brought a glimmer of hope. This highly complex and expensive potion must be taken every day during the week leading up to the full moon. While it does not cure lycanthropy or prevent the physical transformation, it allows the werewolf to keep their human mind while in wolf form. Instead of becoming a bloodthirsty predator, the transformed werewolf becomes a sleepy, peaceful wolf, waiting out the night in safety. Unfortunately, because the potion is extremely difficult to brew and requires very rare ingredients, it remains inaccessible to many of the impoverished and marginalized werewolves who need it most. The true tragedy of the werewolf lies not just in the physical pain of the transformation, but in the severe social isolation they face. Witches and wizards who suffer from lycanthropy are often treated as outcasts, unable to find employment or housing once their condition is discovered. This discrimination has created a deep division within the werewolf community. Some, like Remus Lupin, strive to live peaceful lives, hiding their condition and protecting others at great personal cost. Others, driven mad by societal rejection, align themselves with dark forces. Figures like Fenrir Greyback embraced their monstrous nature, actively seeking to bite and infect as many people as possible, especially children, in an attempt to build a werewolf army capable of overthrowing wizarding society. When we study these shadow entities, we begin to see that the boundaries of Magizoology extend far beyond the physical tracking of magical beasts. The boggart, the Dementor, and the werewolf represent the darker corners of our own existence. They show us that magic is not just a tool for lighting wands or levitating objects, but a powerful force deeply connected to our minds, our fears, and our vulnerabilities. By understanding these creatures, we do not just learn how to defend ourselves, we learn about the fragile nature of our own humanity. The study of the magical world is, ultimately, a journey into the self, reminding us that the most profound mysteries are often those that walk beside us in the dark. Chapter 11. The Statute of Secrecy and Beast Concealment. The signing of the International Statute of Wizarding Secrecy in 1689, and its official enforcement in 1692, changed the wizarding world forever. For centuries, witches and wizards had lived alongside their non-magical neighbours, sometimes in harmony, but more often in fear of persecution. When the decision was made to retreat into the shadows, it was not just magical humans who had to vanish. The entire magical ecosystem, from the smallest bowtruckle to the most colossal dragon, had to be hidden from Muggle eyes. This monumental task became even more challenging in 1750, when Clause 73 was added to the Statute of Secrecy. This clause placed the full weight of responsibility onto individual wizarding governments. Each nation's Ministry of Magic was now legally obligated to conceal, care for, and control every magical beast, being, and spirit within its borders. If a creature caused harm to a Muggle, or simply drew their attention, the responsible ministry would face severe discipline and fines from the International Confederation of Wizards. Concealing a small, shy creature like a mooncalf is relatively simple. They only emerge during a full moon, and their natural behaviour keeps them far from human settlements. But how do you hide a nesting colony of common Welsh green dragons? How do you prevent a herd of wild hippogriffs from soaring over a crowded Muggle city? The answer lies in a highly coordinated, multi-layered system of physical concealment, environmental charms, and cognitive modification. It is a silent global effort that requires the work of hundreds of specialized wizards every single day. The first line of defense in beast concealment is geographic isolation, supported by powerful environmental magic. The Ministry of Magic does not simply hope that Muggles will avoid dangerous territories. They actively bend the environment to ensure they do. This is achieved through the extensive use of Muggle-repelling charms, known by the incantation asterisk, repello muggletum asterisk. A Muggle-repelling charm does not physically harm or frighten a non-magical person. Instead, it works on a psychological level, gently nudging the Muggle's mind away from the protected area. When a hiker approaches the boundary of a dragon reserve in the Scottish Highlands, they do not hit a magical wall. Instead, they suddenly remember a forgotten appointment, or they feel an overwhelming urge to check if they left the oven on at home. Their brain instantly invents a logical reason to turn around and walk away. The massive sanctuaries. These charms are woven into the very fabric of the landscape. They are often combined with the magic of unplottability. To make an area unplottable means to remove it entirely from physical and digital maps. A Muggle cartographer can fly over the region. A satellite can take photos of the Earth. And yet their instruments and eyes will simply glide over the space, perceiving only empty wilderness or generic terrain. This allows entire valleys, lakes, and mountain ranges to serve as safe havens where creatures can hunt, breed, and live without ever encountering a non-magical human. However, animals are unpredictable, and even the strongest environmental charms cannot always contain them. Highly active and flying creatures present a constant risk of exposure. For these beasts, direct individual concealment is required. Hippogriffs, for example, are magnificent avian beasts that love to soar high in the sky. To prevent them from being spotted by Muggle aviation or ground observers, owners and breeders are required by law to apply disillusionment charms to them. A disillusionment charm does not make the beast completely invisible. Instead, it causes the creature's skin, feathers, or fur to act like a chameleon, perfectly mimicking the colors and textures of the sky, clouds, or landscape behind them. To a casual observer looking up, a flying hippogriff appears as nothing more than a distortion in the air, a passing shadow, or a trick of the light. When these preventative measures fail, the second line of defense is triggered: cognitive intervention. This is where the Ministry's Department of Magical Accidents and Catastrophes, along with the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures, must act with extreme speed. The most vital wizards in these emergency situations are the Obliviators. These are highly trained specialists who master the delicate and dangerous art of memory modification. Armed with the memory charm, *Obliviate*, they are dispatched to the scene of any major sighting. Wiping a memory is not a crude act of erasing a mind. It is a precise, surgical procedure. An Obliviator must enter the mind of a Muggle who has seen a magical beast, locate the specific memory of the event, and carefully remove it. But erasing the memory is only half the job. If a Muggle suddenly forgets what they were doing for an hour, they will become suspicious and alarmed. Therefore, the Obliviator must construct a plausible, mundane memory to fill the gap. If a Muggle saw a dragon flying through a thunderstorm, they might be made to believe they saw a particularly large flash of lightning, or that their car engine backfired, causing them to hallucinate from stress. The human brain naturally seeks logical explanations for things it cannot understand. By providing a comfortable, scientific lie, the wizarding world ensures the Muggle remains safe, calm, and blissfully unaware of the magic around them. For larger incidents, where a beast causes physical damage or is seen by dozens of people, the Ministry utilizes the Office of Misinformation. This office works tirelessly to coordinate with non-magical authorities and media outlets. They craft cover stories for newspapers, television broadcasts, and internet forums. When a rogue giant wanders into a non-magical village and destroys a row of houses, the Office of Misinformation quickly steps in. They might blame the destruction on a sudden localized tornado, a gas main explosion, or a freak landslide. They provide falsified weather reports and expert testimonies to satisfy the public's need for answers. Through these elaborate cover-ups, the true nature of the event is buried under a mountain of mundane bureaucracy. Yet, despite all these efforts, some magical creatures possess behaviors that make total concealment nearly impossible. The most famous example of this is the Kelpie, a shape-shifting water demon native to Great Britain and Ireland. The largest Kelpie in the world resides in Loch Ness, Scotland. This specific Kelpie has developed a highly problematic love of fame. It frequently takes the form of a sea serpent to rise above the water and show off to onlookers, only to transform into a horse and dive back into the depths when investigators approach. The sheer frequency of these sightings has made Loch Ness a household name worldwide, because the Scottish wizarding authorities have repeatedly failed to keep this beast under complete control. They have faced numerous fines and warnings from the International Confederation of Wizards. The Muggle world's obsession with the Loch Ness monster is a constant reminder of how thin the line is between secret reality and public myth. Similarly, the Yeti of Tibet presents a constant challenge. These large, ape-like beasts live in the freezing heights of the Himalayas. Despite the harsh environment, Muggle mountaineers frequently catch glimpses of them, leading to the global legend of the abominable snowman. The Tibetan authorities must work constantly to manage these sightings, often using memory charms on climbers who stumble too close to Yeti territories. In the modern era, the task of beast concealment has become more difficult than ever before. In the past, a sighting could be contained if the witnesses were found within a few days. Today, Almost every non-magical person carries a smartphone with a high-definition camera and instant access to the internet. A photo of a dragon or a hippogriff can be uploaded and shared with millions of people across the globe in a matter of seconds. To combat this, modern ministries have had to adapt. They monitor global communication networks for anomalies, using advanced tracking magic to detect when images or videos of magical beasts are uploaded. Before these images can go viral, wizarding cyber specialists work to discredit them, labeling them as clever digital hoaxes, CGI animations, or promotional stunts for movies. The rapid pace of technology has turned beast concealment into a constant, high-stakes game of digital hide-and-seek. Ultimately, the Statute of Secrecy is not just a law designed to protect wizards from muggles. It is also a law that protects the beasts themselves. If the non-magical public were to discover the existence of dragons, acromantulas, or thunderbirds, the consequences would be devastating. These creatures would likely be hunted out of fear, captured for scientific study, or exploited for commercial gain. The complex system of muggle-repelling charms, unplottable reserves, and memory modification is a shield that keeps the magical wild safe. It allows these magnificent, dangerous, and beautiful creatures to live their lives in peace, roaming through hidden valleys and flying through protected skies, forever out of reach of a world that is not yet ready to believe in them. Chapter 12. The Legacy of Newt Scamander. For centuries, the wizarding world looked at magical creatures with a mixture of fear and confusion. To the average witch or wizard, a beast was either a pest to be cleared away, a danger to be destroyed, or a secret to be hidden from non-magical eyes. Early ministry departments spent most of their time trying to control and suppress these animals. They did not try to understand them. If a creature caused trouble, the solution was simple and harsh. It was captured or eliminated. The idea of protecting a beast, of preserving its natural home, or of studying its role in the magical ecosystem was completely foreign. Beasts were monsters, and humans were their masters. This fearful attitude began to change because of one man, Newton Artemis Fido Scamander, known to most as Newt, turned Magizoology from a practice of fear into a science of compassion. Born in the late 19th century, Newt grew up with a natural love for the living world. His mother bred fancy hippogriffs, and from a young age he learned to respect these proud creatures. He did not see them as weapons or status symbols. He saw them as living beings with their own feelings, social rules and needs. This early lesson stayed with him when he entered Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, where he was sorted into Hufflepuff House. After leaving Hogwarts, Newt joined the Ministry of Magic. He started his career in the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures. His first job was in the Office for House Elf Relocation. Newt later described these 2 years as incredibly tedious. He wanted to be out in the field working directly with animals, rather than sitting behind a desk filing papers. Soon his talent and deep knowledge of strange animals were noticed, and he was transferred to the Beast Division. It was here that his true work began, and the modern era of animal conservation started to take shape. Newt realized that people feared what they did not understand. If wizards only saw a creature when it was angry or hungry, they would always view it as a threat. To change this, he decided to travel the world to study these beasts in their natural environments. He visited 5 continents, carrying little more than a magically expanded suitcase that held an entire sanctuary of diverse habitats. He observed how the creatures lived, what they ate, and how they interacted with one another. He learned that many beasts classified as highly dangerous were actually gentle if treated with respect. In 1927, Newt published his findings in a book called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. This book was a massive success, and quickly became a standard textbook at Hogwarts. It did something revolutionary. It explained the habits of 75 magical species in simple, clear terms. Instead of telling wizards how to destroy these animals, the book explained how to avoid them safely, how to care for them, and why they were important. For the first time, young witches and wizards grew up learning that magical beasts were a vital part of their world, not just monsters hiding in the dark. As his fame grew, Newt used his influence to change wizarding law. He understood that protecting creatures required strong official rules. In 1947, he was almost solely responsible for the creation of the Werewolf Register. While this register is viewed with mixed emotions today because of how it was used to track people, at the time it was an attempt to bring structure and support to those affected by the condition. Even more important to Newt was his work in 1965, when he wrote the ban on experimental breeding. This law was designed to stop wizards from artificially creating new, dangerous, and untamable monsters. In the past, people had tried to crossbreed different magical creatures to make terrifying beasts, such as crossing dragons and chickens to create fire-breathing monsters. These experiments often resulted in creatures that were highly aggressive and could not survive naturally in the wild. By banning this practice, Newt protected the natural balance of the magical world and ensured that wizards would stop breeding dangerous animals for sport or war. He always considered this ban to be his proudest achievement. Newt also worked closely with the Dragon Research and Restraint Bureau. Dragons are some of the most dangerous and difficult creatures to manage. In the past, they were hunted for their hides, their blood, and their hearts, or kept in small dark spaces to guard wizarding treasures. Newt advocated for a different approach. He helped establish large, hidden reserves where dragons could fly freely, hunt, and live without human interference. These reserves, located in remote areas like Romania and the Hebrides, became models for global habitat protection. They showed that even the largest and most destructive beasts could be preserved safely if they were given enough space. This shift from pest control to habitat protection is the core of modern magizoology. Today we understand that we cannot protect a creature without also protecting the place where it lives. Many magical beasts depend on specific environments to survive. The diricawl, for example, needs quiet forests where it can vanish and reappear at will. The demiguise requires thick jungles where its ability to turn invisible helps it blend into the foliage. Without these habitats, these unique animals would simply disappear. Because of Newt Scamander, the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures changed its focus. The Beast Division is no longer just about catching escaped animals or hiding them from non-magical people, known as muggles. Today, a large part of their work involves maintaining safe zones, casting powerful concealment charms over large forests and lakes, and studying animal populations to make sure they are healthy. Magizoologists are now trained to be field researchers and protectors, rather than hunters. This legacy continues to inspire new generations of wizards. Today, young researchers travel the globe, following in Newt's footsteps. They study how magical creatures behave, how they adapt to a changing world, and how we can live alongside them in harmony. Newt's grandson Rolf Scamander became a celebrated magizoologist himself, marrying Luna Lovegood, another passionate defender of rare and unusual beasts. Together they continued the work of exploring the world and finding beauty in the most misunderstood corners of nature. The story of Newt Scamander is a story of how empathy can change the law, science, and culture of an entire world. He showed us that every creature, no matter how small or frightening, has a place in the great pattern of magical life. He taught us that we do not own the magical world. We share it. By moving away from fear and embracing curiosity, wizardkind learned to protect the beautiful, wild, and fantastic beasts that make our world so wondrous.